Okay.
I look cute with my Disney shirt on.
You do indeed.
Okay.
All right. What is your full name, and do you have a nickname?
My full name is Vicki Lou McLeod Garrett.
Do you have a nickname?
I'm Grandma.
When and where were you born?
I was born in 1949, October the 16th, in Jacksonville, Texas.
What was it like growing up there?
When we were younger, we lived in Jacksonville, and my dad worked for the state, for the highway department, and so he didn't have a car. We lived in the country. We lived on one of the old family houses, and the to get water in the house, we had a pump inside the house.
This one.
We had a pump inside the house where you literally had to pump the water
That's
to
crazy.
get the water into the house. But we also had a well. And so to take a bath,
Yeah.
there were 3 girls, and then I had, there were 3 girls, and then I had boy cousins. And everybody would come over on Saturday, literally come over on Saturday. All the families would come over on Saturday. And then a big, huge oval cow water
That's
tank
crazy.
that they would fill
Y'all would bathe once a week?
once a week.
Y'all probably stink.
All 3 together.
We're all stinky?
All 3 girls together in the same bathtub.
Oh gosh.
This big oval tank, and they would take the water from the well because it was faster and heat it on they had a wood stove.
Did it take a while to get water? Is that why you only did it once a week?
Yeah,
Oh.
because you had
You
to
had
fill
pump
this
it,
big
yeah.
oval tank, and us girls would get in and take our baths, and we get all cleaned up, and then we go in the house, and then the boys, my cousins, would get. Now we were little,
Yeah.
we were younger,
Yeah.
so and we would get in the tub and clean the house, but we would go to meet my dad. We'd walk down the red dirt road to meet my dad and pick up plums along the road. And then we'd eat them or have plum jelly. Wild plums, absolutely incredible. But we canned all of our food. My family were farmers.
Yeah.
And so we canned all of our food. When, anything like tomatoes, we made our own tomato ketchup, our own tomato sauce. Everything was made from homemade. We had potatoes from the ground. I had an uncle that had a cantaloupe and a watermelon farm.
That's crazy.
So we ate a lot. And then we moved to Houston. And that was a different
Sorry, they're crazy. What is your earliest childhood memory? Phoebe. What is
Actually, my earliest childhood memory was literally
the bathing?
going out and being there and doing all the canning of the tomatoes, because they would bring the tomatoes in off the, we had a farm that was, everybody had a farm, everybody had different vegetables and
That's
fruit
crazy.
and stuff. And they would bring it over, and I remember the tomatoes because we would get little bitty containers of
Yeah.
Morton salt. They made little bitty blue containers. And we kids could go out to any of the pastures, any of the farms, and pick up whatever we wanted to eat. It was never a problem. But whenever my parents would make these, my mom and my aunt, several aunts, would be in the house and be boiling water. And then you dump the tomatoes, you just dip the tomatoes in, then you pull them out, and then you peel the skin off them.
That's crazy.
And you put them in these big glass jars that had paddles in them. And you
mush 'em?
can see them in the antique stores, but they're big, huge gallon glass jars, and it has a little paddle in the top, a handle in the top, and a paddle in the jar. And you put the tomatoes in there and spin the paddle until it was tomato sauce, tomato ketchup, or tomato whatever. And we made our own butter. We milked the cow.
Turning it.
Yep, we milked the cow and churned our own butter. That's
Crazy.
very country.
Very country. What was your favorite thing to do for fun?
Well, after we moved to Houston, when I was a little bit older, when we moved to Houston, I would, my sister and I, Deanie and I, would get on our bicycles
Yeah.
and we would ride up and down the street. And we used to do tricks on our bicycle where we would hold onto the handlebars and put one foot on the seat.
Oh, like a wheelie?
And we'd stand up.
Yeah.
It wasn't a wheelie, it was a real bicycle. And we'd get going and then we'd get up on the bicycle and hold the handlebars and stand with one foot up and one foot back.
That's crazy.
I can remember doing all that.
Oh, that's fun.
Kids don't do that anymore.
No.
No.
No, we don't.
It's too dangerous. And we didn't have helmets or pads.
They didn't care. What was school like when you were a child?
School was very interesting because all I wanted to do was read.
Really?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do.
This goes into my second question. What was your favorite subject?
That was actually was reading.
It was. Did y'all have an English reading class?
We had history and social studies,
Yeah.
science, math, and literature.
Yeah.
But they didn't call it literature back then. I think they called it reading.
Yeah, probably.
I was in a speed reading class.
Oh, so you're smart.
I was smart.
You're a go reader.
But my fourth grade English teacher got upset with me because I would hold my history and science books up and put a book in front of me and read the novel rather than.
Yeah.
And so she gave me an F.
Aww.
And when I went home, I really got in trouble. And she changed the grade later, but she said it was the only way she could get me to pay attention.
Oh, that's sad.
Isn't that sad? I was just too smart for her.
How did you get to school?
You know, when I was younger, I don't even remember. I guess my parents took me. We didn't ride the bus.
No.
When we got into junior high, when we moved to Aldine and we got into junior high, I would walk. It was literally a mile from the house.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if I was ambitious, I would ride our horse.
Your horse? You would ride
Yeah.
your horse to school?
I couldn't bring the horse to school, but I would sometimes ride the horse and Daddy would take the horse home. So, yeah.
Phoebe, Eliza, stop.
It was just fun.
It's okay, I can edit all this, it doesn't matter. Phoebe! Eliza, no. It's okay, I got editing magic. Phoebe. Bad dog. Alright. When did your family first get a car? Like, how old were you?
Oh, we had a 1949, it's a 1949, I want to say Buick, but I'm not sure if it was a Buick. It had a rusted out floor.
Oh, yeah.
And so they put baking sheets, cookie sheets on the floors to keep us from falling through. And one time,
Wow.
one time I was leaning on the door and the door came open as Daddy was going down the street. And I hung on to the door.
So it was a really bad
It
car.
was a really bad car.
How old were you?
4 or 5.
Oh,
I
okay.
was young.
And then how many cars did your family have when you were growing up?
Just one.
Just one? Yeah.
Just one.
Just one.
Till my older sister went to work and got her own car.
Good for her.
We just had the one car.
Who were your heroes or role models when you were young?
I actually, which is kind of interesting because of Auntie, Wonder Woman was always my
Aw,
favorite.
that's sweet.
Always my favorite.
Why?
Because she was a strong woman who still was feminine,
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
but she was smart as a whip.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole thing. She knew how to talk to people. She didn't have to use her strength for
Yeah.
everything. but she knew how to talk and she knew how to organize and get things done.
Yeah. What do you remember about your parents and your grandparents?
You know, my grandmother made every dress I wore. Back when I was in school, you had to wear dresses. There were no shorts and no pants.
Oh, I have to wear a skirt.
Yeah, well, no, it had to be a dress. You couldn't wear skirts. And my grandmother made every one of my skirts.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of my dresses, my sister's dresses,
Yeah.
everybody. She made all of our clothes. I mean, all of our clothes.
She was a good sewer.
She was an extremely good seamstress.
What do you remember about like your mom or your dad?
My mom was an outstanding cook. My mom taught me to cook.
Yeah.
My mom could cook anything.
Good for
She'd
her.
fix anything. Then she went to work. She was a librarian.
Aw.
And so she went to work. My dad was a Houston police officer
Oh yeah.
for 20 years.
Yeah.
So we had an interesting life. But we had horses and cows and goats and
Rabbits.
dogs and rabbits.
You ate rabbit.
We would, my dad and
Yeah.
I, we raised rabbits to eat.
Yeah.
And we would sometimes butcher 60 of them at a time to go in the freezer.
Great. Did you keep the rabbit feet? For
We
good
didn't
luck?
keep the rabbit feet. We did skin the rabbits and kept the fur and fixed them so that they would, you could use them.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we didn't keep the rabbit's feet for good luck. I mean, the rabbits lost their foot, so that's not really good luck.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why it's a good luck.
But we had, I had a black doe and a white male rabbit buck, and they got together and had an orange baby.
How does that happen?
I don't know. It's a beautiful burnt orange baby.
That's crazy.
And we didn't eat that. That was a pet.
Aw, that's so sweet. How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
The world is totally different today because kids don't know how to work.
Kids don't know how to work.
No, they don't know how to work. I think every person should have to spend a couple of weeks on a farm working a farm because you can see life and death. I don't think kids today understand life and death.
Yeah.
When you work on a farm, you see what it takes to make sure your animals are fed. I'm not talking about y'all. Y'all are made to work. I'm talking about the majority of kids today are spoiled. You spend too much time on your phones. We didn't have phones. We
Yeah.
were outside. We played outside. We went, when I was little, we created syrup that you couldn't eat out of primrose plants. We made up our own toys because we didn't have expensive toys.
Yeah.
We didn't have phones. We didn't have the TV. First TV we ever got was the most amazing thing in the world.
When did you get the first TV?
We got the first TV. My dad had a jewelry store.
Oh.
And I have a picture of my mom standing by her first television. And after he got out of the Navy, Daddy was in the Navy, he used his VA benefits to become a jeweler. He was a natural watchmaker.
Good for him. And he was a police officer?
And he was a police
He did it
officer.
all.
He did it all. And so they had a jewelry store, but we were the first in our neighborhood to get a TV.
Oh, how old were you?
That's what I was trying to think. I was in elementary school, so 6 or 7. I was young. And all the neighbors, all of our friends would come because the big Chief Indian from like the big Chief Indian tablets,
Yeah.
that's what was on the TV until the show came on.
That's crazy.
So when you turned on the TV, you'd see the big Chief Indian. And he would be on there until the show came on.
That's crazy.
Milton Berle was usually the show that
Yeah.
we watched. But until that time, we got to listen to the radio.
Yeah.
And they would tell stories on the radio. It wasn't
Did y'all have
music.
phones and stuff?
We didn't have phones until later.
Landlines?
They were landlines,
Yeah.
but it was a party line. So there was always 3 or 4 people on the party line.
But when did landlines come out?
It was a landline, but they came out in the
Like, yeah, like when were phones? Like,
In the 50s,
oh, okay.
you had phones,
Yeah.
but they were landlines.
Yeah.
I mean, they were party lines.
Oh.
So you shared the same line.
Yeah.
Like your parents would share the line with the next door neighbors.
Oh.
And the people across the street. They'd also have the same line, so the phone would ring and you could pick it up and listen to your neighbors talk to anybody they were talking to.
Did people gossip a lot about that?
Oh yeah.
And you just,
That's
that's all it was for.
No, well, I mean, yeah, we didn't, you didn't use the phones very much.
Well, you didn't
And
need
then
to.
when everybody got their own private phone line, it was on the wall.
Yeah.
Big phone on the wall that you dialed the number.
Yeah.
So you had to put your finger in the dial and dial the number.
Too much work. I just want to
Well,
type.
then we got push button phones.
That was
So
great.
you could push a button
Yeah.
instead of
Like the
dialing the number.
Is it in the 90s?
No, I think it was before the 90s.
80s?
In the, let's see, when I was in
No, they had
Kansas,
cell phones in them.
well, yeah, no,
No, they're
when I was
portable.
in, no, when
No,
I was
they
in
didn't.
Kansas City, when your mom and Uncle Robbie and them were in, let's see, we went up there when Auntie was 8 months old. So that was in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
75, 70, in the early 70s. You had wall phones.
Yeah.
And you had princess phones. The princess phones had the push button. But they were wires. So in order to talk on the phone, I had a wire that went all the way around my house. I had a 2-bedroom house.
So you would just walk with the.
Oh, you'd walk with it and talk to my friends and clean the house and do the housework.
I would trip over that.
It was fun.
was fun.
Life was very different.
What big world events were the most memorable while you were growing up?
Vietnam War.
Vietnam War. Why?
Because so many of my friends had to go to war and they were killed. It was the war that we did not win.
No.
And they kept saying that we would win, and they just kept sending young people over to die. And we didn't win the Vietnam War.
That's so sad.
It is sad. That was,
Well,
and of
heartbreaking.
course, the walk in space.
Yeah.
I mean, the space
That was
walk.
crazy. If it was
yeah,
real.
That was,
Okay.
yeah, that was, no, that,
I'm just
it
kidding.
was real.
I'm just kidding.
that was a big deal.
I'm
The
just
walk
kidding.
in space, the Vietnam War. Try to think what else. There were so many things.
Yeah.
You had all of the race riots.
Yeah.
In the 60s, there were the race riots, and my dad being a Houston police officer, it was really rough for him.
Yeah.
Things have changed dramatically.
How did
Martin Luther King,
Yeah.
today's his birthday.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
March. Yeah.
It's today.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
today. There were big changes made.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of, that was in the 60s.
What was there a big effect from World War II on your father? Like, was there a big effect?
My dad was on the USS Bunker Hill.
Yeah.
When they were doing the kamikazes. And he only told us one story. And that story was, he was an 18-year-old country boy who had been drafted.
Yeah.
But he signed up for the Navy rather than go into the Army. And he said when they first saw the planes, they did not know what kamikaze planes were. Because they had never, this was something that was new.
Yeah.
And the Japanese would get these guys drunk, put them in the planes, and tell them to go dive.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. But Daddy said that they were all standing, and all these planes were flying above them. And they were all watching them because they didn't know what was going on because they were flying so erratically. And somebody yelled, "Run!" And they all started running towards the back and the front, whatever. And Daddy looked back, and his best friend was frozen to the thing and got hit by the plane. So
That's
he
so
lost
sad.
his best friend to a kamikaze.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it is sad. But you can actually see that on the Discovery Channel.
his friend get hit?
No, I don't know if his friend. You can see the Bunker Hill
Oh,
getting
yeah.
hit by kamikaze planes.
So sad.
Yeah.
And what life advice would you pass along to your grandchildren?
Life advice that I would pass on to my grandchildren is, first of all, know the Lord. Accept Jesus as your personal Savior. Accept that He is going to control your life. And know that love will find a way. And prayer will strengthen you. Even when things are rough and they're not going the way you want them to go. Because it's hard being young.
Yeah. Tell me about
It's
it.
very hard being young, yeah. It's very hard being young, but I feel bad for some kids today because I see their parents never learn to
Yeah.
be parents. They don't know the Lord, they're going their own way, and my advice is to follow your happiness. But stay within the boundaries that you're allowed when you're not on your own.
Yeah.
And figure out what makes you happy. Don't get into a marriage. Don't become just because it's marriage. Find a life partner. If you want a life partner, find one that is going to be your partner. That, marriage is really 150%.
Yeah.
You got 75 and 75 so that you can come together. Don't just listen to your friends. Do what each person has a gift. Each person has talents. God has given women especially so many talents. But your problem is you have to figure out which talent
To use.
to use and to strengthen, because you're very strong, you're very smart, and it's up to you to make yourself happy. It's not anybody else's decision to make you happy. Don't do just what everybody wants you to do, whether it's an adult or a boss, or if you're not happy, you're not going to have a good life.
Yeah.
Don't just fit in. Find your fit.
Yeah.
Find where you need to be.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Does
Well,
that
thank you,
sound good?
Grandma.
Well, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Ah,